Gotcha. Today we're going to be looking at blowguns and how to make one really simple, really cheaply, really quickly, but still a lot of fun.
Spirit, heart, and hand, a righteous king in this great land, through woods and walls.
In the late 70s, early 80s, there was lots of action actors on the screen, but one in particular was Charles Bronson. And on screen and in person, he was a pretty tough guy, but he wasn't too good at acting, at least in my opinion. Nevertheless, he was one of my father's favorite actors during the time. And in 1979, he starred in a movie entitled Love and Bullets. And one evening, probably in the fall of 1982, definitely sometime during that year, they screened the movie on television. Of course, this is back when you had 3 or 4 different channels that you received with antennas on your TV. And of course, my dad was watching Love and Bullets when it was on. I was off playing, and I think my mom was cleaning the kitchen after dinner or something. But my dad called me in for a particular scene. And Charles Bronson was in a hotel, and he was going to be facing the bad guys soon. And he took apart a floor lamp and got the shaft that went from the foot up to the actual bulb. He took that apart, and he had that just as a tube. He also found a closet where the maintenance man kept lots of materials, supplies, and tools. And he got some nails or screws, I've forgotten which of the two, and some tape. And then in his hotel room, he had a notepad. And so he used the tape, the paper, and the nails to make darts, and he used the tube of the floor lamp as a blowgun, or some people call them blowpipes. And then he faced off against the bad guys with a blowgun. Now, at the young age of 8, I'd never even heard of a blowgun, definitely never seen one. But I watched that scene, that was the coolest thing ever. And so I was off all through the house, every closet, the laundry room, my dad's work area, and I finally found a pipe. It was probably about 2 feet long. Was it PVC? I don't remember what it was. It was some kind of yellow plastic pipe, but it was perfect. And then of course I got some nails and some paper and some tape, just like I'd seen Charles Bronson do, and I made a blowgun that night. Now, I had a dartboard, so I already had a target, and started shooting the darts into the target. And from that point to this, blowguns have always been one of my favorite pastimes. So in this video today, we're going to look at making a blowgun that's really simple, really economical, really quick to put together, and still lots of fun to work with. In a moment, I'll show you all the components, even show you what some of the prices of these components were, and different ways that you can put this together. But you may be asking, what in the world does this have to do with Christian manhood? Well, the first thing, and this might seem pretty simplistic, but if you watch the introductory video, I said that as men we're doers. This is something we can do other than watch television or just sit around. It gets you up. And once you're finished and you shoot this thing a few times, you do have a sense of satisfaction that men really crave from things that we've done with our own hands. The second thing is that this one is so simple and so easy to put together. It's one that you could work on together with your son or your daughters. They may find this enjoyable. The boys definitely will. And then shooting into some manner of target, whether that's a dartboard or a cardboard box or whatever, you can do that on your own and hone this skill. You can eventually get to the point of using blowguns to hunt. There's one guy who's got some become pretty famous on the internet for hunting with a blowgun. His name's Tim Wells. In fact, he sells some professional blowguns under his name, but he takes all kinds of animals. And you may be thinking of small things like squirrels or rabbits, but no, he hunts large game. He has videos online of killing deer, and the largest I saw him kill with a blowgun happened to be a black bear. So they're pretty potent, but this one would not be one that would work in such fashion. But regardless, as I said, it is something that you could eventually use to hunt. But for nothing else, it gets you to hone skills, and that depends on how far you take it in creating the blowgun and the darts. To be honest, making the actual blowgun, the pipe, doesn't take a lot of work because you're kind of going to buy the pipe. The work is maybe adding accessories to it. The skill will come in making different types of darts. But once again, it's something fun that you can do, something fun, target practicing with it, and possibly hunting, spending some time with your children, playing with it. Another thing that it's helpful for is if you do this with children, and even for yourself, it's a very good teaching aid because a blowgun exhibits all three of Newton's laws of motion pretty simplistically. So it's a good vehicle for teaching those lessons. And so, as I said, we'll go over the pieces or the components in a moment, but just to illustrate, you have the pipe, and then you insert some type of dart into it, and it creates a seal, obviously, that would have to be broken for the blow dart to come out. So the first law of motion, according to Newton, is that an object at rest tends to stay at rest, or an object in motion tends to continue in motion at the same speed, same direction, unless acted upon by an outside force. So you have the dart in the pipe, it's not moving, it's staying at rest. When you blow on it, obviously you're exerting an outside force, which creates it to go through the pipe and ultimately through the air on a trajectory. That brings us to, we're going to skip the second for a moment, go to the third law of motion. And the third law of motion is the one that states that for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. And so when you put a blow pipe to your mouth or in your mouth and you blow upon it, you're exerting force. Now, I'm not exactly at sea level, but I'm pretty close. So here, or at sea level anyway, for every square inch of skin on my body, I'm experiencing 14.3 pounds of air. That's how much air is between me going up to outer space. That's how much it weighs. So I have that pressure all around my body. So right now with this pipe, there's 14.3 pounds per square inch all around the outside against the back of the dart and down the pipe to the front of the dart. But when I blow into it, I'm exerting more than 14.3 pounds per square inch. And all of that builds up in my mouth. And so my jaws, my lips, the back of my mouth, my tongue, they're all pushing back with whatever PSI. Let's say that I'm not sure what a human achieves when they blow on a blowgun, but let's just say it's 20, a nice easy number. So we're exerting 20 pounds of pressure with our lungs, our mouth, our jaws, tongue is pushing back with 20 PSI. And so nothing happens. Except, remember, you have this against your mouth or in your mouth. There's only 14.3 pounds per square inch pushing on the front of this dart, but now because you're blowing, there's 20 pounds per square inch. So it's going to push against the dart that way and accelerate the dart through the pipe, which brings us to the second law, which has to do with acceleration. And that law says that the acceleration of an object is directly proportional to the force exerted upon it and inversely proportional to the mass of the object. So the lighter your dart is, the faster it will go. The heavier it is, the slower it will go. And then obviously, the harder you blow against it, the faster it will accelerate. So once again, a blowgun is very good for teaching those physics lessons. When Newton came up with those in the 1680s, it revolutionized the way people thought about motion. But anyway, let's look at the different components from which you can make a blowgun. Now, obviously, you can go just buy one of these pipes. This one is 2 feet long. And I went to Lowe's, and at Lowe's they sell lots of different diameter PVC pre-cut into 2-foot sections. So I bought a couple of these that are 2 feet in my local Lowe's at this time, February of 2026. These were $3 each. So if you wanted, you could go pay $3 for a 2-foot long pipe and do nothing else. Just make darts, and you've got a very simple blowgun. And of course, you can modify it in different ways to make it more or less, I don't want to use the word professional, but a little more complicated, complex. The easy thing is you can sand it and paint it whatever color you'd like. And I do recommend that you paint it because you can spray paint. You can buy paint in a rattle can that says it's for plastic, and you can spray paint PVC and it'll paint it, but it comes off really easily because PVC is so smooth. So you want to rough that up with some type of sandpaper. Okay, so that's the first thing. You can just go buy one of these pipes. You can buy a longer length At the local Lowe's, they also sell it in 5 foot and 10. 10's too much, so I mean, maybe you could buy it in a 5 foot section, and that's about $5. So that would definitely get more velocity. One of the problems with PVC, when you get about 5 feet and you're holding it out, it's not very, well, at least this 1/2 inch diameter that we're using isn't very sturdy, and it will droop. You can still use it, because if you practice with it and it's always drooping that same amount as you're practicing, then obviously you'll get where you're very good using the Blowgun even with the droop in it. Another thing that's not necessarily necessary, but is good to add, it would be a mouthpiece. And so this is just a bushing, and it goes from 1.5 to 1/2 inch, and it just fits on the end of the 1/2 inch PVC. And now, instead of sticking the pipe in your mouth, you simply put this up against your mouth. Some people prefer one or the other. Since I started out 8 years old with just a pipe, I grew up just shooting without one, and that's what I'm most accustomed to. But I do put the mouthpiece on occasion. This was about $2.50 at Lowe's. The other thing that's not necessary, but I would recommend putting on the end, is this is a coupling, or not a coupling, another bushing, and this one is 3/4 to 1/2. And just put it on the other end. And the reason for that is it can protect the end somewhat. PVC is pretty durable. But the other thing is, in a future video, we're going to make an actual sight for a blowgun. Most people don't use them, and it's not as simple as putting up a bead like a shotgun or a blade like a rifle. It's a little different, because when you shoot a blowgun, you're obviously using both eyes. And so it has to be a sight that will work with both. Once again, not necessary, but you can use it. And that was a dollar at Lowe's. And then this last piece is another optional. This is a 1/2 inch coupling. It was 70 cents. And the only reason I picked that up is because you can put it on and put another 2 foot piece together and have a 4 foot blowgun. The only reason that you'd want to do that, as opposed to just buying the 5 foot and using it 5 feet or cutting it off the floor, is in this way you could take the blowgun apart when you're storing it. It's not quite as long and cumbersome, and then you can put it together when you need to use it. So once again, $3, 70 cents, $1, $2.50. So depending on what you use, you can have a blowgun as cheap as $3. Just put a mouthpiece on it, you're up to $5.50. Add the muzzle end, $6.50. If you want to make the one that comes apart and is 4 feet long, obviously you'd add 70 cents for the coupling and $3 for another section of the 2 foot. Okay, so that's what I meant by it can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. It can be just the 1 2 foot piece, or it can be with all the accoutrement that you put on it. Next, we're going to talk about darts, and this is really where you can go lots of different ways. There's lots of kinds of darts that you can make. And for today, we're going to make one that's probably the quickest and easiest, that works really well. Eventually, we'll talk about paper darts and some plastic cone darts. We use different material for the tips, and all that impacts, once again, the mass, so the speed of the dart, but it also impacts that inertia. Once the dart's moving, a heavier dart's going to hit with more force than a lighter dart, but at a slower speed. But for the darts today, there's only 2 materials. These marker flags, and you can get these at Lowe's, Home Depot, any of the big box stores. You get 10 of these right now, 10 of these for $3. We're going to cut it in half, so we get 2 tips out of each, so we're really getting 20 for $3. And then the most simple cone is going to be these foam earplugs that you can scrunch up and stick in your ears. And when you buy these, you have to be careful exactly what type you buy, because there are a few different versions. And I've come to realize that the local Lowe's, they've switched over the past couple of years, and they sell a different style now. That's a little smaller in diameter on the back, and it won't fit into the pipe snug enough to make a good seal. And so they wouldn't work. But the ones that you actually want to use, I did find those on Amazon, so I know they're still being made, and you get 100 of those for $9. So once again, that's pretty cheap. So if you're getting 20 tips for $3 and 100 cones for $9, then you have about 20 darts for, I don't know what that comes to, $4, $4 maybe. So once again, it's pretty cheap, and they're quick and they're easy. And the other thing that's really neat is with using the foam earplugs is if you want to just play around with your children, you can add no point to them, just simply the earplug, and you can shoot each other because it's completely foam. So it's almost like Nerf. The only thing is with no weight on the front, they don't fly very accurately, but still fun and will make your kids giggle. The only reason I would be reserved about doing that is young children getting mixed up with which ones they can shoot their sibling with and which one they can't. Because these darts we're going to make using these marker flags are extremely sharp, and they do penetrate well. In fact, when I shoot them in my dartboard to practice, I can't pull them back out. I have to use pliers. So that is a caution, so maybe a caveat you need to keep in mind. And then also, what kind of tools would you need for what we're doing today? Well, I mentioned a moment ago that if you're going to paint it, you need to sand it. So, you know, some sandpaper. I've got some 100 grit here. You could use 80, you could use 150, whatever you happen to have. Or you can leave it white if you want it to be quick. Obviously, if you paint it, you're going to need some type of paint. This is just some black primer. Works pretty well on sanded PVC. And then I took a clothes hanger and cut it into a bunch of hooks, because obviously if you're going to paint these, you have to have some way of holding it without painting your hand. So you can just hang it up on a little tree limb or something and then spray paint it. But if you come up with a different system, that works well too. For the darts, I use these clippers to cut the flag in half. If you have normal pliers, usually around this area, they have something sharp that will snip it. And then you'll learn as you watch a few of my videos over the coming weeks that this is one of my favorite tools for blowguns, cut off or angle grinder, depending on what you call it. You can use that to cut the PVC pipe to different lengths if you want to. I'm going to use it to sharpen the tips after I cut the flag in half. It works pretty well, works quickly, and it makes the darts very sharp. All right, well, let's go outside and start working on this, and let's get it put together. Now, as I said, we're going to sand the plastic lightly, and it doesn't take much, just enough to get it to the point that it's not as smooth as it was. And you'll start to see, I don't know if they're showing on camera, maybe they will against the black, these little strings of plastic sticking out, and that means it's working. So you'll just do that for the entire length, and then of course the fittings that we're using as well. So next, I'll skip all my sanding and we'll paint the pieces. Now, as I stated before, we're making the tips from these marking flags that you can get. Obviously, this one came from a big box store, but we're first going to remove the plastic flag, and most often you can just pull that off. It's glued, but it does slide off pretty easily. And once you have it off, there is some residue. It's kind of sticky. I just simply spray it with some WD-40 and then go with paper towel, and all the glue's gone. So then, obviously you could make a dart from this entire thing, but pretty lengthy. So cut it in half, and you can just use some snips like this. Even most pairs of pliers towards the hinge will have a place that'll snap it, and so you just cut it in half, and then you're left with the piece that you're going to use. Of course, we're going to sharpen it to make sure that it works really well. I didn't explain, but what I do with the grinder is I actually lay it on the guard here and then go up to what's about like 12 o'clock, and then I rotate it with my thumb and finger back and forth. And that's how I get it pointed. While the paint's drying, came back inside to make a dart, and there's a reason that I'm doing this in my kitchen. So I told you we're going to use these foam earplugs as the cone, and I've got one of the tips that we made earlier. And the easiest way on these is to run it up through the back. But the problem is these things collapse, and you see how it starts to mold, and it's almost impossible to get it through. What I found is I put these in the freezer. Now, I don't know exactly how long it needs to stay. I put this one in yesterday, so it's been in there about 24 hours. But I found I can actually get the tip to go through when I do it that way. So let me get this guy out. So this one's been frozen, and they don't get much more stiff than to begin with. So you still have to sort of twist and push, but it's a little more resistant to molding and collapsing and getting off kilter. And there it comes. So you can just pull it through. And of course, it did mold somewhat, so we're going to have to wait until it expands, and then we'll be able to use this dart. Next, we'll go outside and shoot this at a target and see how it does. Now that was only from about 15 feet away, but I'm going to walk you up and show you. For such a simple dart, pretty accurate. And as I told you, you can't pull these things out. They go in deep, so you have to definitely be careful. So the only way that I'm able to get them out is with a pair of pliers. So there you go. We put together a really simple, really quick and easy blowgun, and it works pretty well. Cheap, efficient, loads of fun. Made darts that are real quick, easy. And I mentioned before about buying certain type of earplugs. You'll notice that this one kind of bell-shaped, and that's what you want to look for. The other nice thing is they're bright orange, a little easier to make the dart find. But anyway, that's how we put together a blowgun real quickly, real cheaply, real efficiently, loads of fun. And we'll be looking at different blowguns in the future, different kinds of darts. If you look behind me here, I've got one that I consider more professional style blowgun. That one happens to have all paper darts on it. Really accurate, really fast, and definitely works well for hunting. I thank you for joining me today, and as always, be the salt and sharpen the steel.